Oh, it was so difficult to internalize people not wanting you to be healed because of how it makes them feel. Losing people because you're on the journey of that. Having to constantly fight and set boundaries, and then those boundaries be disrespected because their egos matter more. Yet they wanted you to be better, but their egos are so front and center and is so erratic, and they're not coping with that. They would rather you sulk back to the corner and stay in silence than look internally. That's also the problem too. The Daily Humans podcast welcomes you. Happy Sunday. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Nina.
Welcome. Well, I get so over saying welcome. So hallelujah to you. Hallelujah to all of us. Hallelujah to Sundays. We love Sundays.
Over.
She's moving. Where are you moving to?
Just
Where
to
are you
the
going?
left. To the left, to the left. Everything you own, to the box, to the left.
I completely respect the pun. Completely. Everything she says, I'm just like sitting there. Nina and her funniness. One day, I don't know if she'll allow me, but I recorded a message that she sent of herself singing the most rant.
Yeah, go ahead. Please do.
I'd love if we could insert it somewhere here. Like I'd love if we could just insert it. Right? She found a beat, right? This random beat, and then she sent us in the group chat her song to this beat. And I was crying. I was not expecting this when I clicked on this voice recording. I was so crying.
Do I want to be
She is
toxic?
so funny.
It's going to make sense later, guys.
Toxic?
I promise.
Toxic. Do I want to be toxic? And then she's still getting into the rhythm. Oh my gosh. And it's not copyright too, because this is her own thing.
Well, the beat might be. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it out.
Oh yeah, true. That sucks.
If we can, yeah, it does. But if we can get it up for you guys somewhere, maybe we can do it as the intro. I don't know, but you'll hear it. You'll know.
Hallelujah. I'm so happy to hear that. I was expecting, which I would have respected anyway, for her to be like, nah, let's not. Let's just keep it between us, which is absolutely fine. But then none of you would be able to hear the glory of what she created. And I think that should be shared, in my personal opinion, obviously, but just so creative and funny. And the pun you just come up with, just fabulous.
Thank you. We've talked about it before in previous episodes, I think, but Ashley, you have helped me immensely when it comes to owning my puns and my moments when I can be funny and when I am funny, and acknowledging that I can make people laugh. You know, I've had a problem with that before. In fact, I never had a problem with it until I've had people tell me, "Oh, you're not funny. That's not funny." You're laughing at that, and I'm having a good time because I don't really care about making people laugh. Honestly, like, I don't do it intentionally. If I make myself laugh, if I think it's funny and I tell the joke and I laugh, I think I've made my day. But when you hear that quite a bit, it does make you like pull back a lot more. And so that's what I did. And Ashley has helped me come out of my shell again and make me feel comfortable and be like, no, you are funny. And now I'm like, okay, thank you. I am. I have my moments.
Oh.
I have a lot of them recently. So I'm very proud.
Not even recently. It's been a while that I've just sat on the bed listening to her voice recordings and I'm laughing. And I thought to myself, where did she come up with this? That's wrong. I said this to her when she first told me. They were wrong, completely wrong. If there's anything more to be wrong about, it's that. If there's an F that was invented for this stuff, they get an F. Bow
Mm.
bow. You know, the no deal. There's just every beat, every sound that resembles that bow bow, that's what's happening with what they said. All of them in one, like an orchestra. So they say it, and then the orchestra plays bow bow and every other beat that resembles that.
Yeah. Bow bow.
Completely bow bow. And may I just say for any of you as well that are particularly not given space to just be yourself, and if that's humorous or not, whatever. Um, have you been around someone who's embarrassed by literally everything?
Mm.
Have you ever, Nina?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Right. They're people that have never felt comfortable in expressing sort of really any part of self. So anytime someone says to you, "You're not funny," or "I find you cringe," or "I find you embarrassing," it's just like imagine it as this is the microphone, right? Imagine this is the microphone saying it. It's literally just within this space, this sector, and I'm an individual. So there's like a gap there. There's like a major gap between me and this person. So when they're saying, "You're cringe, I don't find you funny," it's like, well, in this space is your cringe bubble, is your embarrassment bubble, is however you internally feel about my existence bubble. And the greatest thing about your bubble is that it's yours. Oh, so
Yes, it is.
whatever you project is just coming from your bubble and it will stay within your bubble because guess your bubble isn't owed for someone to stop being them for what your bubble to expand. Your bubble doesn't expand when you find someone cringe though. It does nothing. It just kind of depletes itself into a very insecure space. Really, every time you try to suppress someone else's expression.
Mm.
So it will always be there will always be a distinction between you and the person projecting because it's purely theirs. I've said it so many times, but I really implore people to be themselves and being funny in like such a natural way.
Yeah.
It's just being you, really. Being you is just, it's fun. It's fun being you. And you feel what it is when you're not. So I'm so glad you found it, my friend. And thank you for your puns and keep them coming. Even if someone doesn't like it, which look, that might happen. You might have someone that's like, that's not funny. Because on social media, you hear it. They're like, oh, you're not that funny. You're not funny. You're probably gonna hear them. But you're just sitting there, like they say, and you're like, what now? The whole world stop laughing because Bob the Builder, Temu version, said you're not funny.
I like that.
Stop. Yeah.
Thank you. And I appreciate hearing that. And I'm sure there are people out there who do as well, because I think it comes down to the fact that, and I don't want to say this about myself because I can't assume about every single person who may or may not have thought about this when it comes to me personally. But like in general, and this is something I've observed with others, and when they receive criticism for being themselves or for making jokes or whatever, if it is a respectful joke, because not simply because you're being disrespectful doesn't make it a joke when you say, oh, it's just a joke, bro. So I'm not referring to that. Let me make that very clear. But I think people don't like seeing other people be free and then also be free within themselves to express themselves, like you
Yes.
said. So they want to shut
Yeah.
that down. And you opened me back up. You were the sunlight to my flower, and now I shall bloom. So thank you.
Keep blooming, my friend. Don't do anything else, even if the non-bloomers try to stop your bloom. You keep
Mm.
blooming. Yes,
Yes.
it's better to be a bloom than it is to sink within your stem and stay there. Why sink within your stem? Why? When you can bloom. So just bloom.
That's an ad.
Yes,
Just
that is
bloom.
an ad. Don't steal it. I will know. My spirit team will tell me.
Yes.
The other day I left the house wearing my ensemble, my prom dress. No. Just wearing what I wanted to wear, And I'm starting to get a lot more I'm starting to get good at remaining in my space. It depends though, because funny enough, I've noticed that when you're in a particular cycle of your menstrual cycle, you're more aware, you're more hyper focused on externally around you. For some of you, it might be important to pay attention to your cycle and the stages of your cycle because I swear to you, it's not a everyday thing that I'm hyper focused on the external. When I'm in the premenstrual cycle, more commonly, I'm just more aware, and that is anxious, and that's discernment, and that's this, and that's that. It's so much more. So I think it's important for women to be aware of that too. Just a little advocacy there. But when I went out and was in that space of distinction, it's really interesting because in my head I could notice certain looks. And look, they could be thinking multiple things. I wouldn't know. But in my head, I was also thinking if you're thinking if this is triggering you to bring up a whole ton of I don't like it. Why would you walk out like that? Why would you wear that? If that's the cycle of thoughts that you're processing through every single time you see someone that comes out differently, I always sit there and I think it's just clothes, mate. Why I don't know why we give it such power to really take our attention away from the present moment and from ourselves enough to watch that person and then go for the next hour being in the space of, oh my gosh, their clothing. Like sit with our friends and go, oh my god, why would you wear that? It's like, you're clashing patterns. That's how I imagine the conversation to go, really, because it's such a bland, energyless conversation to have. It's like, "Bleh." That's what it reminds me of. Bleh. Like drab slime. That's what I imagine it as. But to take your attention away and for your energy to be so hyper focused in that space for the next hour or even more for some people because they really don't get over it, I think is something to pay attention to. Why you're giving so much energy to that. That's what I was thinking about as I was existing in the space that I want to exist in. I was thinking, I don't know what they're thinking. But on the other hand, knowing how projective society is, I wonder if you realize just how much you're exerting when you don't need to.
Mm.
You don't need to. You don't have to like it. That's fine. You don't have to like what I wear. That's okay. There are things that I don't particularly want to wear. I have no desire to. I don't really like it. And that's all good. But it's when you exert yourself so much, it's actually affecting you in the entirety. It's not actually affecting me. What you think about what my outfit, hey, my energy is intact. My energy is secure. I'm all good. But you're exerting so much of you in a certain light as well that you're just depleting yourself. You're just, in my opinion, suppressing yourself more and more into what Nina said, the stem. The stem, when you can bloom really in your own space, but you're just more down there. Come up to the surface and be free. Be free from the ideology that people need to dress a certain way. Be
Mm.
free from your thought process of I have every right to exert this energy out there and to make sure that person knows so they feel uncomfortable so they stop wearing that and change it.
Mm.
No one owes you that at all. Like no one, literally. Not even a pigeon, if they decide to wear a jumper, owes you that. So just also a thing as well for people that go out there and wear whatever they like. It will always be the opposite person that has the problem completely overexerting themselves. They're doing more damage to themselves than they know, really.
Mm.
They're doing so much more harm to themselves. You just keep existing. Just keep existing, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's difficult. I totally get it. This is me not saying, I'm not sitting here being like, oh, I walk out and I just flow and I look up at the sky and I hear the song Happy by Pharrell playing in the background. It's not the case always, but I know this, so I just keep reflecting it to myself and staying within my centered self. And that's where I like to exist.
I would like to add to that as well, because something, and you guys can chime in on this if you feel the same way, but I think it is so incredibly interesting when a person has their own style and their own taste, and it shows
Mm.
on their clothes when they wear colors, when they wear contrasting things that you usually don't see other people put together. Because, and this is something that I found, people who pay attention to what they like and pour into that, they have such a nice aura about them, such a nice energy about them, and it shows in their clothes as well. And so,
Mm.
personally, I think, especially right now, seeing how, I mean, we've talked about this before, I'm not going to get into it, the fashion industry, everything that's out there, it is so vanilla. So many things look the same, especially here in Germany. So, seeing people express
Mm.
themselves, being who they are, wearing colors, wearing stripes, wearing whatever. Even Ashley's outfit right now, I'm absolutely obsessed with. Like, look at that coat. It's incredible. People who wear interesting jewelry, you know, crystals and all this type of stuff. Like, I think it's so cool. Like, truly, I think it's so interesting. It makes you so exciting to just witness in the world, just be free. Like, yeah, you go wear feathers in your hair, girl. You do you. I get excited when I see that. But it's funny because you reminded me of something when I was, obviously, this is a long time ago. We were all kids at a certain point, but I remember being in middle school and there was always this. I had a friend and then she switched, I guess, friendship groups, and she stopped hanging out with me and started hanging out with other people, and they would like go out of their way to avoid me. And I never understood why, because we went to elementary school together, and I was like, why are they different now? And then I found out during a phone call, I think maybe a couple months later, that one of them didn't like, the head queen of the gang, obviously of the clique, didn't like me because of my the way I was wearing my eyeliner. And I was I literally was on the phone when I heard that, and I was like, you're telling me she doesn't like me because of the way I wear my eyeliner? She literally, horrible person, by the way. But that was the day where I think I was 12 or 13. I can't remember what age I was, but like I sat there and I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've heard in my entire life, but okay. However, the thing I've learned, people who project that are usually insecure and usually not okay with themselves. And that's not a you issue, like Ashley said, that's a them issue. You don't need to absorb it. Just be in your light and bloom. Just blossom. You're a blossom. So yeah.
I think society has released that kind of behavior of, because I don't like what their makeup looks like, I'm gonna dehumanize them. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to segregate them. I think people have not let go of that really insane process, really. That's really insane to me, that story. Like, I don't like her because of her eyeliner.
Yeah. I got bullied by
I
her
wonder
for
if
like a
that was
year.
carried. When you think back to the things that we did as teenagers, the things that we held on to, I look back, I have looked back and I thought, wow, so much energy was given to something that reminds me so much of a game, like the game of life, really.
Yeah.
And or a movie, create something and then create a problem out of it. I think that was a thing in teenage life, is that you create an issue out of deliberately creating it to be something like that.
Yeah.
Seeing someone's eyeliner and going, you know what, 100% this is going to turn into a problem because I'm going to make it a problem.
Yeah.
Insane.
The thing though, like I
Should be
said,
studied.
it should be studied. I agree.
Should be studied. Jeez, oh my god.
Uh, the effects of society in a teenage brain or something, teenage hormones, I don't know,
Yeah.
something along those lines.
They say
But
that because I'm looking at pigeons right now, right? They say that we essentially abandoned the pigeons. I'm starting to think maybe the pigeons saw us for who we truly were and thought, check out, leave, we're done. These people are. I'm not going to say the F word, but you know what I mean. I think they just decided to go on their own because they
yeah,
could no longer rely on us. And it's
yeah.
like I don't blame you.
They saw the toxicity and left, just like a healthy person should.
They established boundaries before we did. Such boss. I mean, just quickly, when I see, because on the house next to me at the roof, they always sit and, they clean themselves and everything. The things I've seen them do, because I'll just be sitting here working and then there they are. Anyway, but when one of them is in the territory, the other one just starts bopping its head and then slowly like pushing it away. And then eventually it flies away. And that just makes me think they have it so intact on the ways to remove someone that is, overexerting boundaries. And it's such a quick process too. The moment they don't like it, it's like they straight away just start bobbing, going after it, and that it flies away. Doesn't work for human beings. You set the boundary, and the pigeon, like that person, comes at you in full throttle mode, like a speedboat. No, a bullet train.
A freight
You set the
train.
boundary. You watch the steam. Building. It's building, and then like 100 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour.
Yes, absolutely. You're completely right. The thing though, like I don't know, it's interesting because it comes back to me as in every single episode. It is all connected. It is all
Oh, I agree.
intertwined. And it
100%.
it always the freedom to be yourself comes from self-expression, but if you don't have the safety to express yourself, how does that exude itself? It comes by bullying, comes through not liking people for them expressing themselves, and it blends really good into the topic of today's episode because
We're talking about pigeons.
oh
Pigeon
yeah, yeah.
pigeon behavior. Why they
Mm.
left?
No, today we're talking about the age-old adage from long, long time ago. It's okay to not be okay. But is it though? So yeah, today we'll be talking about that because I'm sure you've heard it. Ashley and I have heard it. We've had our own interactions with the sentiment, and I'm sure you have a lot to say. So why don't you start off, my friend?
Once upon a time, there was a bird. It's the birds for me today. It's the birds. I actually messaged. No, Nina and I were talking on the phone, thinking about what to talk about, and I brought this up because I actually posted a TikTok about it, but in reference to "Don't suffer in silence." That quotation, and it was so random. It's interesting how information comes to you. I was just existing, and then all of a sudden I felt annoyance. I think because I saw it. I think I saw someone say it, and I went down this tunnel of thoughts, and I thought about my own history with it, as well as it's okay not to be okay. And referencing to how society is online at the moment, I was taking as much as I could think of into account. And I thought, wow, this is just another part of the hypocrisy cycle that I'm not going to say that human beings are fully aware of, which is why we're talking about it today, because I don't think that people are fully aware of what they're saying, but mostly what it means. That's where I'm going with this. What does it mean for you to say to someone, it's okay not to be okay, or don't suffer in silence? Because, like, in this day and age, we're talking a lot about the root causes of systems and mindsets, thought processes, limiting beliefs. We're talking a lot more on that. People are talking more on capitalism and trying to get to the root cause of that, right? This is similar. To me, this is the same thing, but obviously a different topic. Getting to the root cause of why people are quote unquote suffering in silence, and why society needs to actually be in certain spaces to provide a safe space for it's okay not to be okay. And we've been doing that. This is no put down of both of them in general, but it's also making sure that when we use these analogies, that society has the space to back it up as well. You're just saying it then at this point. And that's something that when I first started advocating, which I was 17 when I did, I followed within the crowd of mental health advocacy. I just followed in. I also added my own experience to it, obviously, and my own awareness at the time, but I mostly followed within the crowd. My words really resembled, the way that they would talk. Comfortability and safety is particularly a big thing for me. And finding safety within having conversations, especially when I don't agree, I'm still practicing and I'm still moving through that process, right? That's why there are some things, may I just say, that I do not speak about out loud, even though I have my own thoughts on them, because I don't particularly feel safe yet to go all out. It's not easy to sort of trust in being seen, you know? So over time, I did not feel comfortable having my own opinion about what I was seeing and how the process for me was going. We hear a lot about the broken system in mental health, and that's sort of where I'm getting at with this too, is the continuous recycling of content and words. And I always thought to myself, do we have the backing behind us? And obviously we know we don't. Like, a lot of people know that we don't. It's not deterring that. But at the same time, I'm seeing behaviors cycling through our society that I'm seeing blocking this from actually being something that it could be. You know, it's okay not to be okay, but then, like we were talking about before with clothing as an example, right? There's a lot of it's okay to exist how you want to exist, but also not in the way that I don't like. I see a lot of that, a lot of that. And even myself, I've had to deconstruct that and let go of control, because it's a form of control to think that externally people owe you that to be your version of themselves. Come on now. No. Even if you don't like it, it's exerting control, and that's not okay, which makes it unsafe for people to be okay in the spaces of themselves. So these conversations are about seeing the hypocrisy behind our words. It's okay to say it. It's great to say it, but are you holding up the bargain of what that means? We're dealing with high statistics of suicide and high statistics of mental health. We all know this, right? Okay, so what are we prepared to do for ourselves? And I'm talking about our own behaviors to start making society a safer place. And you know what? This conversation is so big because it also, like Nina says, it's all connected because then it starts to unfold to this ideology of woke and the ideology of blue haired, hating, blah, blah, blah. It all literally connects as to why people don't feel okay to be open, to express that they're not okay. Whoever feels okay to be in a society that doesn't let you be? Who would who feels okay being in that space? No one does. So why are we exerting energy and creating environments that are warped in suppressing people? We know how detrimental it is to the health of a human being. So why are we doing this? What's the point of suppressing someone's desire to be? What's the point? To me, all I've ever seen it be is versions of control. Well, they can't go out looking all colorful because it's not professional. Who set that system up? As the famous quote goes, who set that kind of system up that color is unprofessional? It's like hair color. Hair color was once unprofessional. Why does hair color affect see, the hair color is affecting my speech. Does it affect your work ethic? Does your clothing affect how you show up as a person and how you know, expand your career and unfold it and continue within it? It was human created to ever think that these things affect anything that we do. The only thing that it affects, essentially, when it's suppressed, is the person that is trying to express it. And I can just know that people are going to say, well, you can't turn up to work in a bra and your bra and undies. This is not about that. Okay, yes, there's some boundaries. I get that. I'm not particularly in the space where I want to control, but I get it to an extent. I do get it. But I'm talking about if someone wants to rock up with colored hair and colored clothing, how does that affect the work that they're doing? This is all in conjunction because the more and more that you suppress someone's self expression, the more they move into that space of low mental health. And then they're suffering in silence. Oh, connection made. People suffer in silence for countless of reasons, and there's not just one narrative to that. There's not. It all combines, it all adds in. It's like a feeding system, really. I can't wear what I want to wear. I can't exist how I want to exist because out there doesn't let me. I can't talk because people don't let me talk. How am I going to be seen because I'm not comfortable being seen? It all, imagine it like you're sitting there imagine it as you're sitting there in the space and it's a feeding system of energy and the energy is just flooding within you, like Inside Out number two, where the thoughts are just coming. I'm not good enough. And there's like energy. I can't wear what I want to wear. I can't be who I want to be. I can't even speak. No one gives me a space. I can't be safe anywhere. I walk outside and people are just, I feel them projecting at me constantly. So what do? There's no one to talk to. I can't talk to anyone. They find themselves in the space of essentially, quote unquote, suffering in silence. And that's just a small part of this too. Like I'm just using the clothing as an example. I'll let Nina speak when I say this last thing, just for this little area, right? When I think about the expression of human, obviously that entails. But human emotions are also a part of this equation as well, and the expression of that in terms of how we all hold space for the human and what's human. But because the spaces that have been held for human emotions has always been like a suppressive box, in my opinion, that human beings have tried to lock and throw away the key and pretend it doesn't exist and remain unaware to it, because apparently it really does affect capitalism and hustle culture for you to, I don't know, have grief. How dare you grieve? How dare you? Don't you think that that adds to the suffering in silence? Not allowing people to grieve because of a capitalistic system, having to work 5 to 7 days a week. You can only get 3 days off to grieve. That adds to suffering in silence. Grief has to be processed. It all actually needs process. It needs its own space. And human beings are not giving other human beings that. So then essentially they put it aside, they shove it down, and they get to work. But the thing about that is this stuff doesn't just float away into thin air and disappear like magic. It finds its ways to store. It starts to affect your system, your nervous system, your amygdala. You start to express it in different ways, like overactive anger, like a sprout of anger. Sometimes that's all it takes for some people. Other times, you're in just a very small moment of conflict at work, and all of a sudden, you're exploding all these emotions out, and you're so overwhelmed by everything because, like I think it's the analogy of the boiling pot of water. When it overboils, it starts to, like, the lid starts to move and it starts to spill out. It's literally that. You will find elements in you will find at times in your life, you will release, you will leak your emotions externally, even internally as well. So it's serious, in my opinion, to put this out there, but to not hold space for what it actually means, really. Just like it's okay not to be okay. Is it really? How can you hold space for that if we can't hold space for human emotions? If we just say man up. Ah, man up. Yeah, bro, fist pump. Take a beer. Take a beer and deal with it. Have you tried the meat diet, the carnivore diet? Have you tried that? Have you tried fasting, juice cleanses? Have you tried all of that? I'm not going to put it down that, hey, maybe there is someone out there that has found ways of healing through a juice cleanse. I don't know. I'm not going to put it down. There's over 8 billion people in the world. But I feel like it'd be a very small percentage. And I'll say this quickly, actually, because it's a really good example. There's a podcast in Australia that's currently being talked about. I think it's um, actually, I'm not going to say who they are. There's a podcast that's currently being talked about in Australia, a men's podcast talking about mental health, men's mental health. All over TikTok recently, there's been a story of a man that commented, I think, in their Facebook group that he's having a really hard time, right? And according to what people are saying online, 3 days after he posted that, he passed by suicide. And they had put up some of the comments that this man had received underneath the post that he made. And some of Stitches were talking about how some of the men were talking about, have you started the carnivore diet? You should try the carnivore diet. You should do this, you should do that. And I thought to myself, I think people are convinced that this is how you hold space. And I'm not putting anyone down, but I am imploring to you all that you can learn as two people here that have come from nothing, no knowledge, no awareness on any of this. I might have started advocating at 17, but I had no idea. I learned from starting, right? You can learn how to hold space for someone in the way that is needed for them. And sometimes, too, it's not giving advice or guidance, it's just holding the space for them and listening, because someone was clearly speaking out that it's okay not to be okay. They were speaking out, and look, there were other comments that were allegedly made that were, in my opinion, from what I heard, it completely invalidating of the fact that someone was actually coming out, a man was coming out and being so vulnerable to other people. And I saw the unsafety that was created in that space, the invalidation. And I'm sure people think that it's not. But put your ego aside. I know it's difficult to hear that you potentially, you know, I'm not going to say done wrong, all right? But you can evolve. You can evolve. That's what I'm saying. Put your ego aside and think, how can I hold space? How can I evolve? How can I grow my expansion and learn how to hold space better for people? Because when you have people in your lives, which we do, it's literally for them as it is for yourself. I'm not asking you to be a counselor. I'm not asking you to be a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything like that. It's just the fact that we live in a human society. So learning how to hold space is for everyone and their individual needs. And again, I studied counseling not too long ago, 4 years, 2 diplomas, right? So what was I doing for the rest of the other years that I didn't know all this stuff? I was expanding, learning, growing, being open to that. I've always been this person, right? But I had to expand. I had to look externally. I even had to face my ego and stop giving advice with elements of control, because you can't control what someone else does. I will let you speak now, my friend. Such a big topic, and you're trying to validate as many details as possible, especially because people online think you're a human encyclopedia.
Encyclopedia. Yeah.
Yeah, people think that you're a human encyclopedia. Encyclopedia. I have to say it slower. They think that you know everything, every detail of the human existence. I see it so many times online, and I want to make it very clear. I cannot think of everything as much as I try to, and same for Nina as well, for anyone really. So I let you speak now, my friend. Give us
Before
your
I
wisdom.
came before I came on here today, I don't know, I had a hard time grasping how I was going to engage with the subject because I have a lot of emotions, and listening to Ashley speak, it brought up a lot of emotions yet again. Because, like you said, there is so much complexity, and I'm getting emotional, but it hurts me to face the reality and to know, and obviously this is a reality, it happens every single day, we are aware of this, I understand, but when you actually really sit there and let it sink in, how many people we have lost on this planet just due to them not being able to feel loved, to feel received, to feel heard, and to be seen. It breaks my soul. It breaks my soul even more to know this is a universal problem, regardless of what you look like, where you come from, what language you speak, what gender you are. This is something that we all face. And to hear how people responded to that man, it makes me think we've all been online way too much. And not in the good way, not in the kind where you are growing and learning and evolving as a human being, but in the sense that you have absorbed so much ads and so much information that you do not embody humanness anymore. That even if you do come with the intention of, let me give this advice because this really helped me, maybe this can help you. And I understand that. I've been there as well. But with how you put it as well, Ash, I'm struggling, is what he said. I'm not doing well. And then you have this other voice come in. Have you tried the keto diet? Have you tried the meat diet, the carnivore diet? Have you tried this? It's literally like an ad. It's literally as if first of all, it takes so much to be vulnerable. It takes so much courage to be vulnerable. And I'm sure for men, it can be even worse. And then to open up in an environment where you feel like, okay, maybe this is a safe space, maybe I can be heard in this. And listen, we never know where this person was at when they did reach out, if they had already made that decision for themselves and this was kind of just the last go. But the perfect response to me in that situation would have been somebody saying something like, hey, if you're in the area, let's get a drink, let's talk. Because community heals, and not diet tips, not self-help methods, not quick fixes. And I've talked about this before. Quick fixes don't work in the long run, especially not with severe mental health struggles. And when we look at society today and all the issues that we're facing, all the issues that we're available to see online happen 24/7 every single day, and all this information coming in, quick fixes can put a band-aid over it, but it's not going to last forever. You need to have community and you need to have safe spaces to go to and people you can trust and people that are going to be there for you. And this whole thing of like, have you done this and have you tried that? Yes, you can do it with great intention and you can do it with, the best of hearts. I've been there, like I said, but like Ashley has also stated, listening can go a long way. Offering an ear, a shoulder to cry on, a compassionate space, or just being in community, just being there, being present in whatever capacity that you can, it can go a long way. So it does actually break my heart hearing that because it makes me feel somewhat like I'm in the twilight zone. And when it comes to self-expression in and of itself, listen, I've heard the term of being chronically online, and I'm not going to get into that today, but I have been online, and the amount of unnecessary hate people are constantly having to bombard or to compartmentalize and push away simply because they choose to take up spaces online is disgusting to me. So much unnecessary BS happens to people that doesn't need to happen. And it is a system that comes from the top. It does. Injustice, inhumanity, it is all something we've learned. It's not something we're born with. I don't believe that. And even if that is the case, I believe we can grow out of it. However, there's a word for this, but I can't remember what it is. Either way, mental health awareness currently, in my opinion, has never been higher. And we've got companies running mental health campaigns. We have influencers talking about self-care. We have, even sometimes when we're lucky, governments who acknowledge that it's important to pour into mental health. Okay. Right now, I don't really see a lot of those governments, but it has happened before. So I do need to shout that out.
Historic event.
Yeah. We see things like quote unquote mental health days in workplaces. We have brands selling mindfulness apps. We have celebrities opening up about their struggles, and that's all great, but like Ashley said, we always keep kind of cycling back to the same old. And why is that? And I took a gander, I took a look, and earlier, And every single generation has had its own version of quote unquote talking about mental health. In the 1960s, people were talking mostly about stress and how they need to take it easy, right? We've had the hippie movement that kind of had its influence a little bit with, vibes and music and weed or substances. I don't know if I can psychedelics. Okay. In the 90s, we went the other route. Self-help culture exploded and we had antidepressants and they were like out there popping them like it's candy. Okay. Everybody had an antidepressant, right? And
beauty standards.
right. And they were advertised everywhere. And then today, as we all have come to know in some way, shape, or form, we have the it's okay to not be okay sentiment. And it sounds comforting, it's progressive even. However, and this is where I'm at, and this is where I struggled with coming on today and talking about this, because I feel like every single thing that is bothering me in the world right now comes down to this sentiment, and that is action. Action needs to be put behind those words. It's great to work on opening up the spaces to have these conversations. That is so incredibly necessary. But the real question is, if we keep having this conversation in new forms, why do the same problems persist? What if the reason, and we've said this before, if you're new here, welcome. This is probably the antithesis of this podcast. What if the reason we're struggling with mental health isn't because people don't talk about it enough, but because we're fighting the wrong battle, my friends? What if the real problem, I'm going to try and calm down because I have anger inside of my soul. What if the real problem is that we made peace with struggle instead of demanding a world where we don't have to suffer so much in the first place? Take a moment to just like
silence, please.
Yes. Because here's the thing, awareness alone does not create solutions. And telling people it's okay to struggle, which essentially is that sentiment a little bit, does not change the conditions that make them struggle in the first place, right? The phrase "it's okay to not be okay" has helped many people. It has put out to the world in a lot of ways that, okay, you don't need to be okay all the time. You don't need to be all right. You don't need to have it all together. And that is very much true. I think actually the beauty is in the chaos, to be completely honest. That's something that I've learned. Like if I'm chaotic, I'm just going to let myself be chaotic, but that's a different discussion. But also, it's okay to not be okay has kind of put a Band-Aid in many ways over the gaping wound of society and allowing society to acknowledge suffering without being forced to do anything about it, right? And as Ashley has said, this does encompass a lot of different variations within existence, because, and I've wrote a couple of these down and I would like to read them to you as just little points for you to ponder over, okay? Corporations, for example, I'm gonna call you out. Corporations, come to the front, please. Y'all preach about mental health awareness, but you continue to overwork employees, deny fair wages, and create burnout culture. And then on top of that, yeah, you make people feel like they have to compete with each other to get to certain positions. And then also, you don't give them enough time to just relax. You don't give people enough time to relax. Like Ashley said, taking time off when you need it. But also, why do we work so much in the first place? But that goes back to capitalism. We'll touch back on that in a minute. Don't worry about that. We'll touch on capitalism as we always do. That's our main homie.
He's running from the fire.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. She's really just like my actual face was reacting. So my nose was like, I'm gonna run. Oh my gosh, I gotta run. My eyes are watering. Damn.
Yeah, but governments, you guys are next, and I won't talk about one in particular one because that one sends me. But governments release mental health campaigns and yet still fail to invest in affordable therapy, free therapy, healthcare access for all people, affordable therapy, affordable healthcare. What? What's that? And also support systems in society, places people can go to without judgment, without fear, without, I won't touch upon that, I will let it go, but just places where people can get the adequate care with the right people being there that won't abuse their power and won't abuse their influence, aka religions, churches, a lot of them, not all of them, disclaimer. And schools, hello. Yeah, schools. They say they care about students' well-being, but pile on impossible workloads and standardized testing. Don't we love them all? I feel like I just heard a whole crowd of people being like, because that's the vibe. Standardized testing does not help anybody. It crushes students' mental health, and it does not in any way help the individual student in showcasing their personal strength and growing in those areas, right? Awareness is important. Conversation is necessary, but conversations alone are not enough. And that's where I'm sitting with a lot of problems in the world today, because I'm like, we talk and we talk and we talk, and then sometimes we protest. And sometimes we have campaigns, and sometimes we get movements and communities that really honor what we're talking about. And then it gets bulldozed by people who feel like it's too woke. Oh my goodness. People are happy being themselves. They don't judge each other.
Human rights. Oh.
And it's just what we need is action. We need systemic change that actually reduces suffering and not normalize it. And that means, like I said, better healthcare, workplace protections, educational reforms, social safety nets. Like it encompasses so many different things. And I am at that point at a lot of the time personally where I'm just so fed up with society, because I'm like, when are we going to put our actions to where our mouth is? Because yes, let's create the community, and that yet we say we want something, and yet we tolerate the not having it, or we tolerate people disrespecting our communities that we built, to honor the things that we wish to see in the world and the change we wish to be in the world. And I don't know, I currently have a struggle with this right now because I see so much hypocrisy and life doesn't need to be this complicated, and the inhumanity is absolutely disgusting to me. I won't get too deeply into this, but I do want to mention it. We see inhumanity everywhere we can look, right? But how did we get here? I've talked about this to you before as well, Ash. How did we get here? Because I understand it's always been there in society in some way, shape, or form. We've had so many different things throughout history. I won't even mention them, but I don't. Your face. Oh,
That's gross. The thing that humans have done,
yeah,
gross.
yeah.
Gross, gross.
And for what? For what?
Yeah, for
And
what?
as you were talking to, and I do have to touch upon this, it reminds me of, obviously, because I was just talking about community as well, it reminds me of what's happening with the LGBTQIA community, people tearing down monuments for people within the LGBTQIA communities, taking out records and making it seem as if it never happened. The historic contributions that people have contributed to society, people have achieved And this does not just exist within the LGBTQI, it exists within multiple races, different nationalities, all these different things, world history in general. But I cannot for the life of me ever understand how we can look at another human being and treat them as if they're nothing, treat them as if they're invisible, as if they're trash, as if they don't deserve to be here simply because they don't live up to fake standards in a society that is hell bent on treating you like a rat. And I don't have compassion for people who exude that. And a lot of the time, to be completely honest, I'm going to be controversial when I say this. I'm like, maybe this is what we need. Maybe we need complete and utter chaos in the world for people to get to a point where they're like, okay, maybe this is a problem. But the problem is, even within this system, and Ashley has said it perfectly. You can say the quote if you'd like to, but there are people who are happy seeing other people suffer. And that's something that I don't understand at any capacity, in any way, shape, or form. So I will end what I have to say for now, but I do not understand why. Just that's the word of my life. Why? Back to you, Ashley. Back to you to the studio in the studio.
Hey, thank you, Nina. What a great sentiment that you said. I don't know what to say because I'm just mind blown by your words and wisdom and power. So the newsroom is officially shook, and we are closing down because of how shook it got. Earthquake 101. Ha 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 ha. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Officially unrolling cameras. But we hear a lot about the early 2000s evolution into this deeply obsessed mode with looks. Deeply obsessed to the point where magazines were plastered with, oh my gosh, she lost 10 kilos just from drinking water. Wait, gosh, darling, you should try it. And here is us sitting back, and Nina, honey, saying why all the time, I think is the most appropriate answer to this crap. Because why? Why did the early 2000s obsession with looks need to happen? What was the point? Maybe because human beings set up a system for it to help them in the fashion world. Maybe it was invented for money. Oh, because magazines sell, diets will sell, beauty, beauty procedures is the word I'm thinking of, will sell. Imagine what would fall if our insecurities didn't exist. They're not really our insecurities, though. They're not ours. They were created by other human beings. The insecurities that I experience are definitely not mine. I wasn't born as a baby. Goo goo gaga, my nose is so big. Goo goo gaga, my hair, I have none. Did anyone go through that? Can you actually comment if you actually had insecurities from birth? I'd love to hear the story. I doubt there would be anyone, really. So, insecurities were a human created thing that essentially has now caused a ripple effect of harm against human beings. And yet, still to this day, I sit there online and I see videos, and the first thing I think is, why are you promoting this? Why are you promoting something that you know yourself actively harms people? And I 100% believe is partially the reason why a lot of people have passed by suicide because of how in depth this goes, to the point where human beings have literally not allowed someone to exist as themselves due to bullying, all because of something that just doesn't make any sense. Someone's freaking eyeliner. What? 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 someone's shape of their nose, someone's shape of their head, someone's shape of their forehead. What are we doing? What are we doing? What's the point? Over 8 billion people are bound to be different. Genetics, ancestral lineage, personal DNA. I don't know the biology of it fully, but individuals exist, and that means individual selves exist, individual looks, individual everything. Yet we still have the audacity to promote mental health while also promoting the things that harm mental health. You cannot promote mental health. I can't force it, obviously, I can't control. But in my opinion and my annoyance, promoting mental health and then going behind the scenes and commenting on people in such a projective way, you are a hypocrite. You are a hypocrite. The same as the businesses that do not pay their workers for overtime. The same as the bosses that exploit the workers. The same as every human being that implements a system that harms human beings and then has the audacity to talk about mental health day, mental health month. The audacity. The audacity to the audacity to create unsafe environments as a manager and then expect your workers to show up to work hippy, chippy, happy for customers. The audacity to expect people to show up like robots while not letting them grieve, giving them 3 days, a day, or nothing to grieve the loss of someone in their life. The audacity, just constantly external, that creates you. You're a sponge when you're a child. I've said this before. And as you're evolving, everything is adding, everything is being absorbed. And you're learning from that, and you're forming your mindsets, your mentality. Your nervous system is forming from that. Your nervous system doesn't give a crap about your healing. It only cares about being safe. So if everything that you've been through in your life is unsafe, well, your nervous system only knows that. Now, does it? So how is someone going to feel okay to express themselves if there is nothing that presents safety for that? And then you're expecting their nervous system to feel safe, to rock up to work. And I feel so good to do this job. Haha. Even though my boss is a grade A. There's so much hypocrisy that has peed me off for such a long time, even for myself. When I started healing, as a great example, you would think that people would be happy for you. You would think that people would just be the greatest support system, that you're actually in so many better spaces for yourself, right? A minute of silence for the untruth. A minute of silence for the experience of the opposite. It was so hard. No, no. It was extremely challenging to come to that realization. And all I ever said to myself was, why? I thought that you would actually generally be happy that I've evolved, that I've grown, that I'm healing, that I am finding myself in such a healthier mindset. Mindsets, I should say. But no, it's not actually, this is the thing that I had to learn. It's not about me. It's not about me. I'm getting ready to say a lot. I thought it was about me for a long time because people are, they want you to think that it's you, you're the problem. That you're the problem. Their triggers are your problem. You know, if I'm upset watching you heal, I'm going to make that your problem. You know, people told me to come out of the woodwork and don't be silent about it. You know, speak about it. It's okay not to be okay. I had people say that to me. But then you watch them place elements of control of what that means, the space that they're creating for that. So step into this space, Ashley. It's okay not to be okay, but only within the way that I think of it, only within the way that I'm creating it. So this is actually mine, but I'm telling you that you can express. But if you express in certain ways, I'm going to let you know that I'm not okay with it. I'm going to let you know that I'm uncomfortable with it, that I'm triggered by it. So I think you should go back in the silent corner and go back to silence. And people do not realize that they're doing this, but I also think they do. A bit of both. Unawareness and awareness, unconscious and conscious. The amount of times that people had the audacity to say, don't suffer in silence, and then I'd come out, don't suffer in silence until you get loud. That's what I posted on my TikTok. I was such a silent, I was like the kid in the corner that was facing the wall because of how unsafe it was to turn around and look externally at everything else around me. So, yeah, I stayed with myself. It was never safe to speak because every time you would speak, you'd have someone ready to blast you for it because they have their own things going on. So you stay in the corner because that's safety. And then when I started my healing journey at 21, I started to slowly turn around, very slowly, which is fine. When I started to become louder, it shakes the foundations that have grown from the old. And you watch people step back and go, when I told you not to suffer in silence, I didn't mean for you to actually start talking about behavior of myself and others. We meant for you to, like, be happy in our version of happy. And we meant for you to, talk more and come out more. But we didn't mean for you to start talking about what we did to you. We didn't mean that. Keep that to yourself. Keep it in your corner. Go back to your corner and come out just for happiness for self. And that's it. That's what they expected. That's what a lot of people expect. They expect you to stay silent on what they did for you to be in the corner as well, which is hypocritical. I'll say this before I continue. For people not to be okay, right, starts from multiple reasons. So when you put it out there for them to come out and speak about it and don't suffer in silence, guess what that means also? That means that everyone around them may have to deal with uncomfortability from what they did to create the continued space of unsafety. What you haven't done to provide a safer space for that person. And that includes, as I spoke before, invalidating human emotions, invalidating human experiences because you haven't been through it or because you've never heard of it before. It doesn't just take that person. We always look at the person who's going through it and say, it's okay not to be okay. And then we turn around and continue on our day. It takes everyone, not just the people around them, everyone, every human being, everyone. It takes everyone for someone not to suffer in silence. And if we're speaking on an individual level, it takes everyone around them. But the thing too is that when you step out externally, it's also how people treat you as a stranger. So it takes everyone. Everyone has a responsibility. Nina and I have a responsibility. We're not the outsiders that are watching you all going, ha, we know better than you. We know better than you. We're not doing that. We are actively participating because we're aware and we're okay to put our hands up and say, all right, my ego is being triggered right now. Let me take a step back, reevaluate my ego, put that aside, or listen to what it's saying. Just do what I need to do and then come back. We just know, and we're okay to know. We're aware. We happy to be aware of it. To be honest, I'd rather be woke than asleep.
Ooh, that was
Oh, yeah.
nice.
Thank you. Shakyo. But that's personally what I experienced as well. Is speaking, like actually speaking and becoming loud, people were like, oh no, don't talk about my behavior. You're causing confrontation. You're causing unnecessary stuff. Yet I've watched these people, I've watched countless people just be enabled by the inhumanity that they're creating and then have the audacity to turn around and ask for humanity back. Injustice is such a big thing to me. And I've had to go through, like many, a life of people being allowed to mold me in any way that they please, project any way that they please, not listen to my no's, not listen to me when I'm speaking through my, like the fear that's there or the anxiety, just never being heard. All of this affected how I was to exist in this world. And it also majorly contributed to why I didn't want to exist. And it was so, it was so difficult to internalize people not wanting you to be healed because of how it makes them feel. Losing people because you're on the journey of that. Having to constantly fight and set boundaries, and then those boundaries be disrespected because their egos matter more. Yet they wanted you to be better, but their egos are so front and center and is so erratic, and they're not coping with that. They would rather you sulk back to the corner and stay in silence than look internally. That's also the problem too. It's okay not to be okay and to say it, but when you're triggered by them stepping out of that woodwork and you don't go internal, then how are you going to hold space for someone to express that? That's why I said it takes all of us. Because oh gosh, I even had someone say to me, I liked who you were before.
Wow.
You know who.
Wow.
You can guess who. You know how much you liked who I was before just because you're not liking what you're hearing. That I'm no longer an enabler to behaviors that completely inhumane and don't need to exist. We don't need to have this confrontation or this conflict. You do not need to do this. You're choosing this. And I'm telling you that this is not okay. And I'm understandably stepping into that space of setting boundaries or
Yeah.
kicking your ass out. Why do I need to keep someone in my life? This is for anyone. Why do you need to keep someone in your life that continually doesn't want to listen and continually disrespects your boundaries, but then tells you that it's okay? I'm a friend to you. It's okay for you to talk to me, but then doesn't do anything to set that system up. Why keep them in your space then? I am completely formed in the reality of I don't see the point of any of this because of how long it was my reality. And people have taken offense to that too, and that's fine. I can't control that. You go right ahead. Take offense to all of it if that's your choosing. But I've said this in the last episode, when you know what it's like to be treated like you're not even a human being, to literally be in consistent external spaces of that, internal as well, both. And when you know what it's like to literally not want to exist at all, and there's nothing convincing you otherwise, not a marriage, not children, not a partner, not a house, not a car, not a career, not a tree, not a plant, nothing, literally nothing proves that it's worthy enough to be on this planet. You would be in the same space that I'm in your own way, where you are strict on what happens. You are strict on who steps in. You're strict on what people feel entitled to say. You set the boundaries. You keep practicing with that because you know what it was like beforehand. The hypocrisy. Don't suffer in silence until you get loud. Be aware of your own version of that because a lot of you online as well are doing this. You're saying it until they act in a way that you don't like. And then all of a sudden it's go back to silence. You're either unaware or you're aware that you're actively trying to push them back into the corner because you can't cope with them healing and becoming aware of the things that you were doing before and you were being allowed to do. That's why parents, you see so many videos online of them exploding and saying, well, I did everything I could, you know. I took care of you. I got a roof, had a roof over your head. I did everything for you. And yeah.
Can I please add to that? I did everything for you. I did the best I could. Actually, you didn't, because you didn't. Once you were aware that your actions were hurting your child and you chose to not address that, you failed your child. So you actually didn't do everything you could have done. You chose to just say that as a way to what's the word that I'm looking for? Essentially neglect taking accountability. That's all.
Yes.
Yeah, you may continue.
No, that was perfect. You may interject because honestly, I know you have a lot to say with this too. It's even just the connection with that is the fact that people will literally expect you to keep moving forward when they've expressed and done so much inhumanity. And that's a great example is that a parent can, what's the word? A parent can exude years of abuse and then turn around and tell a child, I don't remember doing that to you. You're making it up. You're trying to make me out as a bad parent. I gave you a roof over your head and I gave you food on the table and I made sure you had everything you needed, everything that I didn't have. So what? Because we essentially suffer, quote unquote suffer, that makes sense to continue the suffering and validate that and then tell them, hey, it was valid for me to treat you this way because I gave you the necessities. I gave you the bare minimum. Because I gave you the bare minimum, my personal punching bag was valid. You as my personal punching bag, totally valid. How does this connect to what we're saying? Is the hypocrisy of someone coming out and then you turning around and telling them to get over it because it's in the past, because you want to move forward from it, because you don't want to hear it. It takes when someone comes out of the woodwork, it takes accountability and responsibility for the parts that people played for them to be in that place in the first place. It's so invalidating to constantly hear, and I cannot stand this sentence. I can't stand when people say, I can't remember doing that to you. Yeah, I woke up one day, Bob the Builder wish version, and I thought, you know what? I'm 100% going to target this person. I just want to. It's a Monday. Why not? Monday fun day, Sunday fun day even. I'm going to just create this scenario and just expel it towards them because I just can. It was a fun time. I literally get into the humor of that sometimes. I just have to because I just think, wow, you really think I woke up this morning and chose violence like this? There's not one part of this journey that is joyful or fun. It's not fun to set boundaries. It's not joyful to set boundaries. This isn't a freaking circus. It is in the chaos, right? But a circus is enjoyable, essentially. But it's not fun to do this stuff. You do it because you have to, because you literally have to for the sake of your own life. Everything I've ever done is for the sake of my own life because I cannot live in a space of not wanting to live. I cannot live like that. And I still partially am living like that. So I have to do things to make sure that I'm focusing on my present and my living, which essentially had to come with accepting that some people do not want to take an ounce of accountability for what they added to my space, what they did to my body, what they did to me emotionally, all of it, emotionally, physically, mentally, no accountability on any parts. And that is another healing journey within itself, to heal without the justice. So that was enough for me to go back in the corner, to come face to face with that consecutively. It wasn't just one person, too, consecutively. Having people go, "You're making that up. I didn't do that to you. Have you thought about getting over it? Have you thought about letting it go? It's in the past." You know? I don't know about you, Fred Flintstone, but for the people that are affected by this stuff, we don't get over it. We have to live with it. You get to move on with your life anytime you project inhumanity, and it's the person on the opposite side that has to live with it. Depending as well on their nervous system, depending on their amygdala, depending on their mindset, their limiting beliefs, their psychology. They've got all that to deal with too, and how it interprets what comes into their space and how they externally exist in the world. So, to end my topic of argument, right? If you're going to say this stuff, back it up, have the spaces and the environments ready for that. That should be an automatic process. If you don't know how, you can learn. It doesn't take the minimum, because if you have children, if you have a partner, if you have friends, family, this is actually the most normal thing you can do, is to have these open spaces. And it's actually not that difficult. Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I have not said the right things at times, 100%. It's not about perfection. Sometimes someone says to you, I've had someone say to me, I just want to talk and I just want you to listen. And I've had to stop and take a step back and be in that space of just listening. I had to learn, and I continually learn, and I'm open to that. But it's so possible. I'm from no background of understanding of this, like nothing at all. Nina knows this too. To learning what that looks like, to learning what it is, to even understanding what each individual needs. And we're not asking for you to create 1,000 lists of what they need. It's as simple as asking. And
Yes.
asking is for you and for them. You can set up the space for yourself as well as they can think, oh, well, how can someone hold space for me? Let me think about that. I prefer you to just listen and I talk. I don't really want guidance. Or I actually do want guidance from you. It's multiple things. But if we're going to say this stuff, as Nina was saying too, it doesn't just take individuals, it also takes the system too. But mostly, in my opinion, it starts with individuals, because the people that created this system are human beings. So if those human beings change their psychology, it would change the system, because then they wouldn't see it as a need. Someone's greed, changing their greed, they would no longer implement things to feed that greed. They would change it. So it takes us, individuals, making the change, to continue the change, to actually provide real spaces of it's okay not to be okay. Do not suffer in silence. We have to do better. No more just talking about it. We actually have to go internal and get uncomfortable. We have to get uncomfortable. We've had to. We're doing it. We still do it. I'm not saying it's going to end once you do it. You just get better at handling it. You put your ego aside because you have to. the same thing that you'd want from other people. You want them to put their ego aside and hear you.
Yes, absolutely. You have to step out of the trap of performative awareness. And you have to realize that this whole discussion, much of it, even the discussions online with psychology and self-help and all this stuff, it's been commodified, it's been capitalized so that it can create a profit, that it can create currency, whether that be in money or in views. And so it's not about getting views, it's not about looking good, it's about getting better. And like Ashley said, it takes uncomfortability. And if I may also speak on this real quick, I learned when I was a child that I was not important very early on. I think it was when I was 6 years old that I was confronted with this reality. And so when you are fed this type of information when you're very young, either through unstable households or school, bullying, it can come in many different ways. It doesn't have to be universal. Everybody's different with this. But when you are faced with that, it takes a lot to grow out of that mindset. It takes a lot to grow out of those spaces where you feel like you don't deserve to be heard and like you can't contribute anything other than doing things for other people, accommodate other people. But at the end of the day, mental health struggles are a universal issue. They affect every single body. And if they don't affect you now, they could later. The same with disabilities, but that's a different discussion. And so I need you to be aware of that if you're listening, and then also understand that these conditions are often exacerbated by systemic inequalities like racism, gender inequality, class disparities, and it cannot be solved by having the conversation alone. You can start it as an individual, but I feel like in a society, the responsibility has been put on an individual when it's not an individual problem alone. You can start it, you can be the seed, you can plant the seed, but it takes all of us together to fix it. And I think for a lot of us that comes back, and I think I've said this before in like self-improvement stuff or self-improvement talk, I'm not sure what the discussion was, but it essentially comes down to understanding where your values lay and reconstructing as a society where our values are. And comes with health, infrastructure, comes with better education, it comes with mental health literacy at an early age, it comes with so many different things, workplace reforms, community support systems, like all these different things, right? But at the end of the day, please know this is not something that you can cure as an individual alone. You can start it, you can make your own life better with these practices and these changes. But there have been therapists out there as well who have just said, you know what? There's only so much that I can do as a therapist because the society is sick. And you need to be aware of that. So please don't let anybody pressure you in this world thinking, I am perfect and you need to be perfect too. What do you mean you're not perfect? And I understand that's where the whole sentiment of it's okay to not be okay comes from in the first place, but I circumvent back to the beginning of this discussion. It's okay to not be okay, but is it really? Because I don't think it's okay to not be okay. I think we can do better. I think it's okay to be okay. I think it's okay to be a mess. I think it's okay to be chaotic, but to not be okay on a systemic, universal experience is not okay. So that's all I have to say. That is how I will wrap things up. Because I will just go into another hour of conversation. We can definitely come back to this because this is so big. And yeah, like have the historical perspective of like, this is not a modern day issue. This is a long historic issue that we have as a humanity, but also be aware you have the power to implement changes and make your life better and to really do improve a lot, especially relationships, friendships, the people you allow in your life, the way you treat yourself, all these things. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to be valid. You deserve to have community and have those safe spaces, but also know you do not need to hold up the entire world to make that happen. You're one grain of sand in a beach that is vast and wide, and we all need to contribute. And you do not need to have it all together. Take it one moment at a time, take it one step at a time. But please always know you are worth it and you deserve it and you deserve stability. You deserve happiness. You deserve a life that you can live peacefully and fully embodying your soul and the completeness of your soul, because that is what we're here on earth to do. And if that's woke, like Ashley said so perfectly, I don't want to be asleep. Also, don't talk about it, be about it. Okay? Okay.
That was perfect. You know, just as a last little thing on my end as well, it is pretty deep where this goes because, like I said in one of the episodes as well, empathy is not hustle culture, and not being okay is not hustle culture, and it's not capitalism either. They need your productivity. They need all of our productivity. They need our worker bee modes. They need us to be in. I'm just adding that one there. Yeah. Without the flowing system of profit, it's got no time for human. I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom because I don't believe that. Like I said, it takes, in my opinion, it takes one human being to be the ripple effect. Online too, saying that, oh, I've noticed that human beings are doing this, this, and this, and everyone's commenting saying, I've noticed it too, I've noticed it too. I just hope that you all are participating in the deconstruction of that. I obviously can't control it, but with all the talk, like Nina said, I hope that there's action behind that. Don't feed into it. You don't need to. If you notice that people are trying to bring back some really stupid trend that harms the human body, that creates issues within how people perceive themselves, don't feed into it. You don't need to. Essentially, too, some human beings truly get off on posting a post of like, we should totally bring back the early 2000s thinness. We should totally bring it back. Like Nina said, some people really enjoy humanity's suffering. The quote in The Dark Knight, I think it was, some people just want to watch the world burn. And that's true. Some people just want to watch the world burn because people have been burning theirs. But also, too, they've burnt their own because you can burn your own. Some people are so angry with other human beings that they do exactly what those human beings did to them. They do that as well. And the cycle just never ends. But it can end. Why not?
Yeah.
This earth came from an atom. I don't know the full theatrics of it, obviously. I can think of the Big Bang Theory, the theme song. I can think of that. But just knowing how everything has evolved, it's so unpredictable. You cannot put an image on it. So in my opinion, things can shift, things can change, people can change. And I truly believe that these systems that once were seen as an importance can be seen for their true illusion because they are an illusion. We don't need to suffer, they don't need to exist, and we can. I truly believe that we can live in a more sustainable humanity, society, environment. I truly believe it. But in my opinion, it takes the process of acknowledging what is stopping that in the first place. And maybe not everything needs a deep-rooted dive, a deep dive into the main issues at hand. Maybe not all things need that, but in my opinion, majority does. Because clearly we're not seeing our own behaviors and how it's feeding it. So hopefully this has given something, and this is for you. It's not just people externally of you, it's for you as well. This is for your life as well. Everything that's being said. Because like Nina says, anyone can experience a mental health condition. You're not immune to it. You have mental health. You have a nervous system. You're not immune. Just like you're not immune to disabilities, but we'll get into that another day. So frankly, this is for you too, as well as everyone else externally from you. Thank you for joining us on another TED Talk of the Daily Humans podcast.
I would like to do a call to action, and that would be if you are a person that has some kind of standing in community, whether you work in a school, whether you work in higher positions in your company, in working environments where you can actively influence certain things or bring about certain situations. Grassroots movements are and have been the number one thing that has changed the world. It only takes a small group of people to change the world. And so if you can, try to implement those changes, try to bring about legislature or classes or something to help society, children, your workplace environment, bring in, if you're in a workplace environment, for example, bring in anti-burnout legislature or I don't know, some kind of program. I don't know, something that is not performative, something that can be built upon in the long run. And I know a lot of teachers, a lot of people don't have a lot of influence when they're a part of a major system, part of a major organization. But even if you can't do it in those environments, do it with your friends, do it after work if you have the time and if you have the capacity for that. And if not, seek out somebody who does. There's so much that we can do in our communities. There's so much that we have to offer, and every single one of us has something to offer. You just have to find out what that spark is in you. You can be a healer, you can be a protector, you can be whatever. There's so many different opportunities and possibilities, and this is the part where I want to end off of with what I'm saying. You are free. It may not feel that way. You may feel chained to a lot of things that you have held up throughout life within this society that's been built for us. But you are free to choose for yourself what you do not and what you do want for your life. So choose carefully, choose wisely, and make sure that you're at the center of those choices.
And
That's it.
essentially too, as it is in the counselling field, it's not, when you come into a counselling field, it's not about the counsellor, it's about you and the tools to help you create your own foundations.
Yeah.
Counsellor can't do it for you. And I fully agree on a system that really helps people to find their own journey and their own likes and desires. So even in that, people say, well, what can we do? What can we do? You also have the tools to be able to see potential pathways that you can take with this.
Yeah.
As well as to go internally, we've reckoned like there's so many things out there that are personal to, if it resonates to you, whether that's journaling, whether that's, going to a smash room. These things, they correspond in the healing journey. They help to your healing, to your acknowledgement, to your awareness. Be open to whatever that unfolds. Why not? You could be afraid of it. I understand that. But why not be open to it? Even if you're afraid, do it when you're afraid. Do it if you're afraid. Why not? Who knows what you're going to experience? And I mean, if I want to say it, we're technically living proof. Doesn't make us freaking gods, but we are living proof that we were afraid, but anything was better than what was before.
Yeah.
This is so much better than what it was before. So if you're in a school, teachers have found ways, and I've been seeing it online. Teachers have been finding ways. So you can. It's just about being open to the discovery of that, what that means for you, whether you give students some quiet time, whether you give them time to just be for 10 minutes. Some parents have started giving their children mental health days. So one day their teacher, their child doesn't go to school and has a mental health day. You know, there are things that people are implementing and they've come up with it themselves, or they've found it online. There's so many things.
Yeah.
There are ways. Find
Yes.
what resonates to you and give patience to that journey of finding it.
You can do it. Don't give up.
I believe in you. That's not copyright. You. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there was an episode where Nina was like, you. And then I started saying it. So now we've both started saying it in voice recordings. Hi, you. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you guys for tuning in for today's episode.
Yes.
We hope you enjoyed it. If you have any thoughts, any recommendations, anything to share, please drop it in the comments below. But this was a great
Finally.
conversation. I really love this. Thank you for your wisdom.
That was
And
good.
thank you for watching.
Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for watching. Please be kind.
Yes.
And we'll see you on the next Daily Humans episode.
Bye-bye.